Ole, and welcome to another Pauper deck tech, which I initially wasn't planning on recording, but since I managed to accidentally press a button while recording the Pauper gameplay that I'm be partially uploading right now while recording this video, yeah, I managed to switch the scene so you are only seeing a black screen and a small bit of webcam uh, after like 25 minutes. So I only really recorded 1.5 matches, and thus I had to cut away the rest. So you are only seeing one more match today. I bring another match tomorrow, but right now I'm not in the mood to play anymore since I did play 1 hour 40 minutes, which I was planning on mainly like cutting and uploading now and tomorrow. And so now that's not possible anymore. But I still felt like uploading 2 videos today since I did promise like 2 gameplays. But yeah, as I said, not in the mood to play any more Magic since it's a bit exhausting and I had something to do before already during the day. So want to shut my brain down at some point, and I figured it might be more chill to just do another deck tech. And I figured also you guys might be interested in this deck since you were also um, reacting well, at least regarding views and um, likes at the or towards the Golgari Tortured Existence deck tech that I did. So this deck is also a green-black deck, but it's gonna be a Dredge centered deck without Tortured Existence. It's just trying to use Dredge cards over and over without being being in need of exactly having Tortured Existence on the battlefield, and that's why, yeah, Tortured Existence isn't at all in the deck since I feel like Tortured Existence is just too much of a build around card to just randomly put it into your deck. So a bit of a different build. Also, different kinds of creatures and different kinds of setup to be able to dredge as often as we wish to. And yeah, let's get to the deck tech. I nearly managed to to press end recording, but yeah, I managed to press the right button, I think. So not more than one stupidity for me for today. And as you can see, green black deck, so pretty standard array of lands. And we are playing some amount of dredgers. Of course, Stinkweed Imp, since it has Dredge 5, just the best dredger in the format. And then the split between Golgari Brownscale and Shambling Shell, as most of the times the life gain will be more important in the long run, I guess, than randomly dredging one more, or sometimes maybe playing this as a 3/3 and at some point sacrificing it to make our creatures bigger. But it might come up that we want to have this card over this, so that's why I'm splitting it in this way. So that's the dredge cards, and we have some enablers for it, which you can see the first one here, set to a wayfinder, which when it enters the battlefield reveals the top 4 cards. We take a land from it and put the rest into the graveyard. So probably gonna hit a dredger there, as long as we didn't hit one before. A very similar effect is Ransack the Lab, which I figured might be nice in this deck. I might get some better ideas and then I'll update the deck list so you can check it out if it's still the same, and I'll probably mention if I do in fact work a lot on it, so you can check it out. But yeah, Ransack the Lab lets us look at the top 3 cards of our library, take one into our hand and the rest into the graveyard. And then we also have these learn effects, cram session and field trip, which of course we might just search on Sideboard for the learn effect. And I put there pest summoning, introduction to annihilation, inkling summoning, fractal summoning, and environmental sciences. In case we are flooding, Fractal Summoning is a nice mana sink. In case we are screwed, Environmental Sciences helps us find more lands and also gains a bit of life. Inkling Summoning can pump out a random flyer from a deck where the opponent might not expect it for various purposes, whether it is blocking, taking back Monarch, pushing through some damage, you know. Introduction to Annihilation, of course, a versatile removal spell, and Pest Summoning. To be honest, mostly I just like the art, but yeah, I also think it's nice in aggressive matchups to have these pests flying around, and that's why I'm running those 5 cards. I'm not running the bad preordained since I don't think this is what the deck needs and wants the most. So yeah, that's the 5 cards with clear applications in case we need it. Otherwise, we will probably always use the other uh, possible side of learn, which is going to be discard a card to draw a card. And what is so nice about this is that it not only is able to put a dredge creature into the graveyard, but we can instantly dredge it back to hand. So we can turn 2 go cram session, discard Stinkweed Imp, dredge Stinkweed Imp back to hand, which of course increases the chances of hitting more Stinkweed Imps. And you might say at that point, yeah, it's just put 5 cards into your graveyard. That's not so good. But the thing is, first, it gains us life, which is really important in some aggressive matchups. Second, it's very versatile. And third, it just um, it just uses the already existing cards and brings, as I said, the other effects with it of potentially being able to tutor something from the sideboard and just in any case gaining 4 life, which this deck isn't as fast as like modern or legacy or of course vintage dredge. So we are probably really happy about the life buffer we are gaining in most of the games between Cram Session and Golgari Brown Scale. Field Trip is a ramp spell, of course, a bit overcosted in comparison to Rampant Growth, and we only can hit forests, and that's why I run so many forests, even though I'm mostly running black cards. And also, of course, I want to have 2 green mana sources for Fractal Summoning if needed, so there's that. And yeah, Field Trip having the same learn effect slapped on it. And for now, I'm happy to try it and pay 3 mana to be able to like discard and dredge, D&D, so to speak. And yeah, that's all the setup spells. And you see most of the deck is synergizing, apart from those random removal spells, which I figured we might want to run a few of. Of course, we could run Chainer's Edict for even more flashback value when it's dredged or any like put into the graveyard. But cast down just can target like the opponent has a 5/5 and a 1/1, and I'm trying to get rid of the 5/5. Chainer's Edict is not gonna do it. So yeah, that's why I'm running at least a few cast down. And now you might ask, what are we filling the graveyard for anyway? Well, first of all, Gurmag Angler, of course, is heavily profiting from some cards in the graveyard, since we can just use Stealth and pay probably just 1 or 2 mana to get a 5/5 already. Pretty good deal. But I'm also trying to run a lot of Unearth creatures and see where it takes me. So 4 of Grix the Slave Driver, since it leaves behind the 2/2, and I figured this is a really strong ability. Then some amount of First Sphere Gargantua, and for Viscera Dragger, since we can also cycle it. Probably you want to change the split to 3 and 3 now that I see it, but for now I'm running it this way, and as I said, you are always welcome to improve the deck, since that's why I'm putting the deck list online and public for everyone to see and work with, so you can improve the deck and accustom it to your playstyle and what you want to do. But yeah, that's the idea of the deck. Of course, you've seen already a third of the sideboard. Apart from those tutor targets, let's say, I'm running 2 Weather the Storm to completely be able to gain way too much life for aggressive matchups, especially burn, to overcome. Since, as I said already, we have a lot of life gain between Cram Session, Golgari Brown Scale, and maybe at some time Environmental Sciences. And whether the storm goes in that direction further, so we have such a huge life buffer that we can just afford to be a few turns slower and then turn by turn pumping out like 5-4 haste, 4-4 haste that leaves behind a 2-2. This draws a card, put down a 5-5, maybe put down Shambling Shell, maybe use Shambling Shell as an engine to make a creature bigger and bigger. For example, random Stinkweed Imp when we sacrifice Shambling Shell into it a few times, like regarding a later stage of the game, then we are probably also winning. And yeah, also Moments Piece for aggressive matchups. Pretty nice value with the flashback, so we can maybe sometimes randomly dredge it into the graveyard and have access to it without having to draw it and have like card disadvantage because it doesn't actually affect the board, it only fogs. But yeah, fogging really nice, especially for slower decks, and as I said, in this case, really valuable for the deck. Then we have some Nihil Spellbombs for some other decks that are trying to play the graveyard game. Of course, we are trying to be the only one to play it, and we are playing it, so no Relic of Progenitors since I don't want to exile my own graveyard. I'd rather have Nihil Spellbomb. Now, you could argue I want to run Boyuka's Bock. I could run one in the main board, but I don't want to have too many taplings here. Maybe the deck could afford it. But yeah, that's a minor change. So Nihil Spellbomb is really nice because it's instant speed interaction, like Relic of Progenitors, which is especially important against Mogwarts combo, of course, because they use the graveyard with the Persist Goblin, but you have to interact on instant speed, and I'm not willing to run crop rotation just to have Boyuka Bock be an instant speed interaction. So yeah. Also for duress, you might want to change one duress for a Raven's Crime, probably, but yeah, for now just for duress. Jammed a playset in there since we don't want the opponent to have like the better non-creature spells, like for example Nihil Spellbombs or Relic of Progenitors from the opponent is really mean, so we don't want it. And some other cards as well probably. So duress can be really nice, and we will probably hit one or two since we are running 4. But as I said, maybe a Raven's Crime is better over one of the duresses, or maybe a Raven's Crime is even better over Pest Summoning. But I have to figure that out, and until then I'm trying to run this deck list. So what starting hands are you gonna have? This is, I think, a good example. I already simulated some starting hands and looked where it took me, so this looks fine. We are getting down Jungle Hollow turn 1, turn 2 draw another land, get down probably Sato Wayfinder, maybe take the Ash Barrens to thin the deck further, and at that point I might start dredging Golgari Brown Scale, so gaining 2 life, putting these into the graveyard. Of course, a bit sad since Cram Session is a nice card for this deck, but yeah, we can also ransack the lab here. Yeah, depending on the matchups, we put Biscara Dragger into our hand. We can cycle it and then unearth it later. Or we just put Cast Down in our hand if it's needed, and Biscara Seer can come back from the graveyard. And we are slowly but surely starting to fill up our graveyard with next turn maybe another Ransack the Lab, and we are working our way to a full graveyard, which we then have access to, and will have some amount of unearthed creatures in it. Or we can just at some point also play Grixis Slave Driver, which is not easy for some decks to handle, so we are having or we are gaining 2 life every turn with brown scales, like dredging those, dredging these, which we can unearth both of them, probably at the same turn at that point. And yeah, that's the deck. It's trying to amass some value, gain some life, and then start pumping out creature after creature from the graveyard. And it will have some creatures left in the hand as well, between maybe sometimes a normal card draw, and of course, for example, card draw from the Gargantua, which probably you want to run more of and less from the Serra Dragger, since this is just 3 mana to unearth, so still nice, but I figured the cycling here is really nice as well, so still trying to get a hang of the deck. And yeah, here also cycling really nice, since it's instant speed card draw that we can as well use for Dredge, so that's why I'm at the moment having 4 Viscera Draggers. I might also take out a land for another Gargantua, but yeah, let's see on that. For now, I'm content with my idea. Of course, this is a bit of a slow hand, but we'll probably make it work with Subtle Wayfinder and what we draw until then. So drawing another removal spell, putting down Wayfinder, find another forest. Next turn we can use Stinkweed Imp, and so now we already have 2 unearthed creatures in the graveyard. We have some field trip to use, we have Stinkweed Imp in hand again, and we can also play Gurmag Angler, so we can really play surprisingly cost efficient, since of course those 2 only hit for a turn, but they hit pretty hard for the mana we are sinking into it. And here in this case, also drawing a card for losing a life, which is most of the times a good deal. And yeah, from there on we can pressure with creatures coming from the graveyard turn after turn, since we can dredge each and every turn, sometimes even multiple times with, for example, field trip. And also here and now and then putting down an angler in between for like 1 or 2 mana. So yeah, that's the whole idea of the deck. That's how most of the hands are gonna look. In this case, probably casting down on turn 2, playing field trip turn 3, Golgari Brown Scale, at least dredge for 2, gain a bit of life, and at some point playing Grix the Slave Driver and stuff. So a really interesting deck, again, a deck that opens up many different lines most of the times that you can play and explore. And I feel like most opponents won't know what's really hitting them and what you are playing, and that can be a really nice advantage as well, when the opponent doesn't know what's going on. And yeah, that's why I'm occasionally trying to brew up some new decks and see how people react, and see how it works and get some ideas from it. And yeah, this is my newest idea. I hope you like it, of course. If you test it out, tell me how it went. I will probably test it out in the following days, but for tomorrow I'll probably first bring another match of Mono Blue Delver to have at least like 3 matches out there, or maybe 4. Let's see how much time I will have. And yeah, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and hasta la vista.